بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على الحبيب محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. So today, alhamdulillah, we had our weekly Seerah session between Maghrib and Isha. And one of the things we were talking about, we just kicked it off. So we talked about the love of the Prophet ﷺ, and then we went through the family tree for the Prophet ﷺ. His father, his uncles, his grandparents, his kids, his grandkids. And one of the things, as we highlighted in our session, that jumps out when you look at the family tree is the line that has the uncles next to each other. I want to focus on just two boxes in that line. One of those boxes is Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anhu. The uncle of the Prophet ﷺ was just a couple of years older than the Prophet ﷺ, was martyred in Uhud. He was so beloved to the Prophet ﷺ. But we want to focus on one of the actions that Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anhu did. When Sayyidina Hamza heard he was coming, the Prophet ﷺ had just came public with the message. And Sayyidina Hamza was in the outskirts, out of the town, and came back. And then somebody told him that the people of Mecca, specifically Abu Jahl, just insulted the Prophet ﷺ. Sayyidina Hamza came closer to Al-Bayt al-Haram, to the Kaaba, put his sword out, and basically said that I believe in the Prophet ﷺ, and whoever has an issue should face me. And Sayyidina Hamza was very courageous and people would fear him. So nobody said anything. And by the way, most narrations tell us that by then he had actually not accepted Islam yet. But his love to the Prophet ﷺ drove him to announce that so that nobody comes close to the Prophet ﷺ. So I want to focus on that piece, like the love of the Prophet ﷺ and how it impacted Sayyidina Hamza and made him declare what he declared. Counter to that, just the box next to Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anhu is the box for Abu Lahab. Also an uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. Also somebody that used to love the Prophet ﷺ when he was first born. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala singles him out and says, تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبٍ وَتَبٍّ. That he's somebody that is in hellfire. And Allah mentions him by name in the Quran, something very scary. And he still is the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. Why? We also want to focus on an action of Abu Lahab. When he heard, remember Sayyidina Hamza heard the Prophet ﷺ, his love to the Prophet ﷺ moved him. When Abu Lahab heard the Prophet ﷺ saying that he's the Prophet ﷺ, he said, تَبًّا لَكَ أَلِهَذَا جَمَعْتَنَا. This is Abu Lahab. And one of the things that the scholars tell us is it was the envy in the heart of Abu Lahab. He felt that this is something we cannot compete with. If the Prophet ﷺ is declaring himself a messenger, Abu Lahab or his kids cannot declare themselves messenger either. So the envy creeped into the heart of Abu Lahab towards the Prophet ﷺ. Now that's a very important lesson for all of us, by the way. Don't distance yourself from that chart and say, I'm neither Hamza or Abu Lahab. Look at what drove the different actions. Someone had a clean heart, full of love to the Prophet ﷺ, and another one had a heart that was dark, full of envy towards the Prophet ﷺ. Now the Prophet ﷺ is not among us, but I want you to think how you treat your brothers and sisters in this masjid. Make it very personal to each and every one of us. How do we treat each other? If you hear that a brother of yours got a promotion in his job and you just lost your job, think about it. Be honest with yourself. Will you feel happy? Will you feel happy to the brother that got promoted? Will you congratulate him? If you feel a brother of yours needs help, will you go and try to help him? Or do we have envy towards each other? You see somebody and you hear good news about them and you're like, I wish it was me. And yes, you say, oh brother, and you hug him, but deep inside you're like, I wish this was me. And then we go behind each other's back and backbite and do stuff. And most of it is driven by envy in the heart. Or at least a heart that is not pure. A heart that got clouded by our actions and our deeds and our behavior. Next time you feel that feeling, I want you to think about the family tree of the Prophet ﷺ and ask yourself, which box do I want to belong to? Do you want to be among the followers of Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anhu? Or do I want to be imitating an action of Abu Lahab? And ask yourself, because I'm sure the answer is obvious. All of us want to be following the box of Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anhu. So don't let envy and don't let your heart cloud your relationship with one another. If you hear something bad about a brother of yours, forgive it. Or just go ask him. Or just go figure it out. But don't let your heart cloud your actions. Because that happens so many times in our communities, and subhanAllah, we should be so eager and so hungry for unity because we're getting literally slaughtered. Literally, Muslims are getting slaughtered in Gaza and elsewhere, and we're here competing with one another and wishing one another bad. Subhanallah. That's not how a minority community would ever function. Let me tell you that. Minority communities will never function if our hearts are not connected, because we absolutely need one another. Because we're a minority in this country as Muslims. We're a minority. We need to build on one another. We want to help each other, not have envy towards one another or cloud our hearts towards one another. That's not how minority communities will work. If minority communities start to have that broken heart, the community will break. And when the community breaks, don't wonder when you see the people of Gaza getting slaughtered. And don't say like, oh, I did my job. If you want to do your job, clean your heart. Clean your heart and unite with your brother and sister and help each other and build a proper community. That's what the Prophet ﷺ did in Medina. That's not far. That's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did in Medina. When the Prophet ﷺ entered Medina, the first thing he did is mu'akha, brotherhood. Said the hearts get connected. Said people help one another. And then we can uplift the whole community. But if we fight one another in this masjid and in Irvine and in Orange County and in the United States, then we're just helping our enemies. We are the ones fighting one another. We're consuming our energy and effort and resources in fighting one another, rather than helping one another, finding excuses to one another, and uplifting one another. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unite our hearts to what pleases Him. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us the right path and make us steadfast on the right path. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم وحد قلوبنا لما تحب وترضى. اللهم واجعل حبك وحب نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم يملأ قلوبنا. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين واحقن دماء إخواننا في اليمن واحقن دماءهم في السودان وفي شتى بقاع الأرض رب العالمين. وحد قلوبنا على ما يرضيك عنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.